Now, let's get into how to actually run a new scenario. So you have created a new scenario, or if you're if you're not even creating a new scenario, you just simply want to run the existing base year 2015 or the forecast 2045 scenario, how to do that. So again, you can start with opening the version file that you want to run. So in our case, we now have let me go back here. We have 3 version files. We have the existing 2015 base 2015 scenario, and then we have the 2045, and we have the build 2015 scenario as well. So depending on which scenario you want to run, you can open the appropriate version file. And we went over this, to open the version file, you can simply double click, or you can right click on it and select the appropriate Visum version, or you can open Visum first and then simply drag and drop the version file. And I did mention this yesterday, but if you haven't done so already, please update Visum to the latest version if you haven't done so already. And if you do not have Visum, then if you're going to install Visum, then please install the latest version, because NERPMAB requires the latest version of Visum. All right, so let's go through these steps quickly. So first step is to open the version file, and then the first thing that you would always do whenever you are running the new model, running a scenario or running the base year model, you would set the project directories, because that sets the root directories for various operations. We talked about Python scripts yesterday. So many of these Python scripts, they require a root directory to be set, and that's a root directory of the version file. And once you set the project directories here, all those root directories are saved to the working directory, or whichever directory you choose here. And that way it just makes because all the paths to scenario directory and all other inputs are relative to the root directory. So then all the paths are complete once the project directories are set. But Visum, I think by default, it does have an option to get the root, the current working directory. But this is just to be on the safe side, to be sure that your root directory is what you want it to be. All right. And then, this is just going through the, when you open that project directories, it would open this box where you can select your working directories. And then after that, you will open the procedure sequence, and you can get it from this menu item, calculate, and then procedure sequence. So it would open the procedure sequence window. And when you're running the model for the very first time, you would run through all model steps. And in a bit I'll show you which steps what which group represents what steps, and we'll work our way through the procedure sequence as well. But in general, you would run all the steps, because none of the inputs have been created in the empty model setup. So when you're running the model for the very first time, you got to run everything, population sim and DaySim data tools, so that all the inputs are created for a model run. But for subsequent runs, if you ran the base year model and you just want to rerun it to, if you made a small change and you want to rerun it, or you want to run more iterations or anything of that sort, you need not run population sim and DaySim data tools again. There's no harm in rerunning them. It won't give you an error or anything. But these tools, they take time to run. So in order to save some runtime, you can skip running those tools for subsequent runs. And before launching the run, there's another setting that you might want to update, and we'll talk about this in a bit once I jump into uh, Visum. But I'm just going to walk you through these steps. So once you have made the change to the number of processes in dasim config file, you can come back to the procedure sequence window, and there are you can start the procedure run. Okay, so at this point, let's jump into Visum again, and let me walk you through these steps. So let's assume that we are running the base year 2015 model. So let me start the 2015 version file. I can simply double click on that, and it just takes a few seconds to load. All right, so the first step is to set the project directory. So to access that, we can go to the file menu, and then come all the way down to project directories, and then you can click on edit project directories. And once you click on that, it would open at the edit project directories window, where for different file types you can select different project directories. But usually for any regular use of the model, um, all of these can be set to the same project directory. So you can click on this button which says set path for all types, and then it would open this um, folder selection box where you can select which the working folder that you're working, or the current directory. So in our case, it is this project directory, this folder. So we select that, you can say okay, and it fills all paths for all file types, and then you can simply say okay. So the project directories are set, and then after that, let me go back to the slide deck here so that we know what steps we are at. So we have set the project directories, and then we can open the procedure sequence. So to open the procedure sequence, you can either click this icon on the quick access toolbar, or you can go to calculate menu and then click on procedure sequence. And it would bring you through this window, the procedure sequence window. And there are 268 different steps involved in a model run. But these, the similar steps, they have been grouped together. But if you want to see individual steps in any of the groups, you can simply double click on that row, and it would expand that group, and you can see, okay, so in network preparation, what all is going on, um, and then if you want to collapse it again, you can again double click on the the header row, and it would collapse back. If you want to see all the steps, you can right click anywhere and then say expand all groups. So that would expand all the groups, and you can go through all the steps. Now for some reason, this is very flexible. So let's say you do not want to run certain steps. Maybe you want to run skip running population sim. You can uncheck this box here, the active box next to population sim step. And next time when you run the procedure sequence, the procedure sequence would skip because this is non-active. Okay, so you can uncheck or check these boxes in numerous ways. And once you're happy with the setting, you can actually save the procedure sequence file itself. So in order to do that, you can click on this box here, save procedure parameters, and then you know all the way setup has been organized, all the procedure sequence files are in the procedures folder. So go to that subdirectory, and then you can give an appropriate name, no population sim or something like that, and then you can save that. And this also allows you to load a previously saved procedure sequence file, and you can do that by clicking on this open file icon, and then you can again go to procedures folder or wherever you have saved your procedure sequences, and then you can select any of those, and then it would replace whatever you have in the procedure sequence window right now, and it would open the pre-saved settings. So this is a nice way, you're doing a certain model task, and you like some of the settings, and that is something you uh, keep repeating on a regular basis. So it's a good idea to save that as a procedure sequence. So whenever you have to, for example, if you want to do select link analysis, and that involves certain steps, you can save that file, and we will go through that later. But you would see those saved procedure sequence files here, so you can load those and then run the procedure sequence to perform only specific steps that you require for the task at hand. So this was just to give you an idea about what all you can do with procedure sequences, and this sort of controls gives you full control over what steps you want to run and in what order. If you want to change the order of any steps, you can use the up and down button to change the order of steps. But we're not gonna do any of that right now. So let me quickly collapse all groups again. So you can do collapse all groups, and so assuming you have made changes to your procedure sequence, or you have loaded a new procedure sequence, before running the model, there's another step, which is to set the number of processes for DASIM. So we need to go to the DASIM config settings. So we can go again back to lists, user-defined tables, and table entries. And by default, the DASIM config table is open. So you can scroll, keep scrolling down, and it's step 96 where in processor setting is defined. So currently it is, I think by default it is set to 12, and this represents the number. You would set this less than max value would be the number of logical cores on your machine. So DASIM uses some sort of parallel processing. So if you have more cores on your machine, you can increase this number. If you have 32 cores, you can increase this to 30, 32, whatever value you want. And DASIM will run faster. So if you want faster run times, you can come and update the settings to make DASIM run faster. And once you have done that, you can come back here, and it's a good idea to save the version file before starting the run, because if anything happens during the run, maybe the changes that you made will not will result in some sort of error or anything. It's a good idea to save all your changes to the network, so that when you reopen the file, the changes will be intact. So once you have saved it, after that, to run the procedure sequence, there are two ways to do it. So let me again expand all steps here. So there are two buttons. So you can click on this, the green play button, and that would start the procedure sequence from the beginning to the end, and it will keep doing without stopping. But let's say if you want more control and you want to, you know, run it step by step, you can use the second button, which is a single step button, which helps you run one process at a time. And this is also very handy. Let's say if you want to start the procedure sequence, not from the beginning, but from, let's say, some intermediate step. So you can go right click on that and then say define as procedure to be executed next. And if you click on that, this blue arrow will come next to it. So next time if you know, click on this single step, it would start from this point and then it would execute this step, and then you can keep clicking through the single step button to, you know, keep running it one step at a time. But if you're sure of your changes and you know, you're all set to go, it's best to, you know, simply um, run all the active operations at the same time by, you know, just simply clicking this play button, and it would start the model run. So I think that's all about how to run a new scenario, or how, if you want to run the base year model or a forecast year model, you know, the steps are pretty much the same. And once the model run is complete, again, it's a good idea to save the version file, because um, by default the version file is not saved. You know, if you are interested, you can add a step um, in your procedure sequence at the very end to save the version file, but right now that has not been added. But you can do that if you want to, you know, automate that process as well. But it's a good idea after the model run is complete to save the version file, to save all the model outputs and you know, other any outputs, any changes to the version file. Okay, so let's go back to the slideshow here, and we did go through all these steps. All right, so yeah, as I mentioned, you know, once you're finished making edits or running the model, it's a good idea to save the version file. And well, whenever you feel like whether you should save or not, it's, you know, you should save the file always. And for running any other scenario or the 2045 forecast model, the steps are pretty much the same. You would, again, you only start with the version file for that particular scenario. So if you want to run the 2045 scenario, you would start with the 2045 version file, and then again go through the same steps of you know, setting project directory, and you know, updating your procedure sequence, and updating DSIM settings if you want a faster run, and then just pressing that play button to start the model run.